There's a new management team in town led by the experienced Mark McGhee, together with Charlie Oatwell and Danny Blore. Kevin Anderson met with Mark to find out more about him.
Welcome, Mark. Well, 2 games in, 2 different results. How do you compare those 2 games?
I think there was signs that we've got something to work on, the shape, and certainly the commitment from the group was fantastic.
The clean sheet must have been encouraging as well.
Yeah, I think that this is the first point. I'm not someone who majors on clean sheets. It's not my starting point really, but I think we had to kind of consider that given that we're not scoring a lot of goals, that we have to think that maybe we have to keep a clean sheet to win the game. That that if we lose a goal, we're having to score 2, and we're maybe at this moment in time not going to score 2. So the clean sheet is important. It gives you a chance of winning the game. But far more important to me is the nature of the attacking performance and creating chances and getting goals. That's what I'll be working on more than simply just keeping clean sheets. I'm not prepared to just put a team out and, as they say, park the bus. Our defending will come from the front, starting with the strikers, protecting the midfield protecting the back four, and the back four protecting the goalie. And I think that's the best line of defence.
The squad is pretty small, and I think there are still some injuries. I don't know whether they will have cleared up by our next game on Saturday against Chelmsford, or whether there's a prospect of anyone else coming into the squad.
I think that there are no new injuries from Saturday, so I think that if we start with the same team, then I won't be disappointed. If anyone's back, then that'll be a bonus, and if we bring anyone in, which we're trying to do, that would be a further bonus. So I think that the starting point would be, for me, the team that started the game on Saturday, with the addition of a couple, would put us in pretty good shape.
You've obviously said to the players that you've got a point to prove, or a lot of points to prove to get points on the board.
Well, I think that I've not talked about anything that's happened previously and who's got anything to prove. I don't know who's got anything to prove, because I don't know who's done well enough, and I don't know who's not done well enough. As far as I'm concerned, when I came in, it was a clean slate. Everyone's got to try and impress. Charlie and I, being new to the club, and give themselves a chance. And when a manager comes in, there's always successes and there's always surprise failures. There's at both ends. Managers see players in different ways. David Martin, for instance, was on loan, and I brought him back, and I think he's done well out of the group. I think in both games he did quite well, and I think that he's going to make a contribution. So there's a surprise success maybe in some people's eyes, and that's the kind of thing that can happen.
That's really interesting. Yeah. So with the remaining games, have you set any sort of targets, either in your own head or publicly?
I think we want enough points not to be relegated, and if that's 1 more point, then that'll be enough. If it's 3 more points or 10 more points, that'll be enough. So all we can do until we know, empirically what that is, we can only set about trying to win every game. And that starts with Chelmsford at home on Saturday, and we will be setting our stall out to try and win the game. We won't be getting into the game with any fear. There's 9 games left to get the points we need, so we won't be thinking about the last home game, because it's irrelevant. It doesn't have any relationship to what was likely to happen on Saturday. It might be the same result, but not in the same way. So we've got to go out thinking we can win a game and determined to win a game, and see where it takes us. And then after that game, if we win it, if we don't win it, we start again.
You've had a lifetime in football and a terrific CV, of course, and lots of managerial situations. To what extent is every manager's situation the same, and to what extent is it different? How different is it here in non-league with semi-pro players?
I think that when it comes to the games, you go into a kind of a sort of dome, if you like, and anything outside of that doesn't really matter. So what you're seeing is the 11 players on a pitch against another 11, and that really is irrelevant to whether it's Wolves or Leicester or Reading or Millwall or all the clubs that I've been at. It's 11 players, and you're totally focused on that. So it's no different. Therefore, you have the same emotions. you have the same, commitment. You want your team to win. I'm standing there on Saturday and I'm kicking every ball the same as I would do with any other club I've been at. Obviously the surroundings and the all the rest of the paraphernalia is different at different clubs. But as far as the job, working with the team on a Saturday in the games, it's the exact same job wherever you are. What is different, obviously, is circumstances. One club you might be at, you're trying to get promotion, another club you're at, you're trying to get to the cup final, whatever you're doing, and in another club you're trying to avoid relegation, and then I've been in all of these situations, so, funny if I would argue that, my best performance as a manager wasn't when I got, Wolves to the playoffs, or got Millwall promoted, or Reading promoted, or, Brighton promoted. It was when I kept Brighton, or helped keep Brighton in the Championship, when we had no money, no stadium, and very little to work with, and I managed to keep them in the Championship on a shoestring. So although we might have lost more goals in more games in that season than I lost in any other season as a manager, I would argue that was probably my best performance. So the performance now from me is along those lines. So we want to win games at this end of the table. It's a different sort of pressure, but I've been there and done it, so I will bring that to bear.
I don't know if I should say this, but some people saw the appointment and said, well, somebody actually said, Mark McGhee, well, that's just a name. But I'm looking at you now and I can tell it's not just a name, is it? You're as committed and involved in this project as anyone could possibly be.
Yeah, well, I think, I don't, I'm not in football for any other reason than it's what I do, it's what I love. I left school at 16, I'm 61, I'm 62 this year, and I'm still earning a living out of football. I've been a player at all levels, international level. I've played European Cup finals, I've played in 2. I've won championships, I've won 5 Scottish Cups, I've had promotions, I've had playoffs, I've took Wolves to the semi-final of I'm serious about what I do, and I think that, to spend a lifetime committing yourself to something like football, it has to be worthy, and I look at other managers, Sir Alex, for instance, who obviously was my mentor, other great managers, Pep Guardiola. I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson could have been the Prime Minister, but he chose to be a football manager, so, it makes it very worthwhile, so I think it is worthwhile, and I think when you take a job, wherever it is, you have a responsibility first and foremost to the supporters, and it doesn't matter whether there's 100 or 1,000 or 100,000, that's where the buck stops, in a sense. That's who you're doing it for, and I feel that very strongly, whether it was 60 at the game in Hampton and Richmond, or whether there's 1,000 here on Saturday. They still care as much about the club as Wolves supporters or Millwall supporters, and any of them, and it's up to us as the management and as the board and as the players in particular, obviously, to respect that and to give it all you can.
Mark McGhee, thank you very much indeed for that. Thanks.